Ever catch yourself in a conversation about, say, food or travel or even what you do for a living, and you just think, there's got to be more to this than just the surface level stuff we're hitting on?
Oh, absolutely. That rings true. We all, navigate these everyday topics,
Yeah.
but often the really interesting layers, they just stay unexplored.
Well, that's precisely what we're setting out to do right now. We've taken this really fascinating, pretty in-depth conversation, and we're basically pulling out the nuggets, those valuable insights, insights that can help you or a listener maybe think of yourself as the learner today, get a much richer understanding, and, without having to wade through hours of chat yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. The source material today is this really wide-ranging discussion, touches on all sorts of things, personal and professional. We're looking at, well, everything from favorite meals and travel habits to thoughts on social media, career paths, even the future of work.
Right. So our mission here, basically, is to really dig into that conversation, uncover the interesting angles, the key things to consider that pop up when someone reflects on these, well, seemingly ordinary parts of life. But they're actually pretty significant, aren't they? Work and life stuff. Okay, so let's unpack this, starting with something really fundamental, our relationship with food.
Okay. So what immediately stands out is this really distinct preference: spicy, flavorful, savory Asian food. And it's interesting, isn't it, that this is highlighted as something particularly appreciated because they live in England, where the perception is it's less readily available.
Yeah, that's a good point. Does that preference maybe speak to something deeper, like a connection to other cultures or maybe even a sensory thing?
Could be. It makes you wonder what specific experiences, shape that preference. Then we get into cooking habits, and it's a familiar story for lots of us, I think. The enjoyment's there, definitely, but it's often driven more by practicality,
Yep.
work schedules, family time.
Right, that constant dance between what we'd ideally like to do and, well, what actually fits into our daily routines.
It really highlights how our daily constraints can shape even our personal pleasures, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So while there might be a desire for, I don't know, more elaborate cooking, convenience often wins out. And when it comes to the local takeout scene,
Yeah.
fish and chips is mentioned as the go-to. A classic for sure.
Yeah, the classic. But the personal craving, it leans more towards Thai and Vietnamese. It suggests that, okay, local options are convenient, fine, but there's a deeper pull towards those specific flavors. And fast food sounds like a very rare thing, almost exclusively linked to travel. That image of the philo fish McDonald's every few months, it's such a specific marker, isn't it? Tied to a particular situation.
It is. It's those little details that really paint a vivid picture. Okay, shifting gears a bit. Seasons and travel. The favorite time of year mentioned is spring or early summer. And the key seems to be the sunlight, the return of sunlight.
Oh, yeah. That definitely speaks to a strong connection between, your environment and just feeling good, well-being.
Absolutely. That feeling of longer days, more light, it's pretty universal, isn't it? But then the approach to actual summer heat is quite practical, seeking out air conditioning, using a fan.
Yeah, straightforward solutions to a pretty common discomfort. Nothing
Really?
too surprising there, maybe.
And their holiday planning. Well, it reveals that common parental balancing act, doesn't it? Ideally, they'd travel outside school holidays, but often they're kind of bound by term breaks because of the kids.
Mm-hmm. The reality for many families.
Right. But their favorite time for a holiday? Around Christmas, looking for warmer places? What do you think drives that? That specific timing, the preference for warmth then?
Well, likely a combination, I'd guess, wanting to escape the, European winter gloom
Hmm.
and maybe creating a different kind of festive vibe, something non-traditional. But then there's that interesting contrast with the cold holiday, Norway. It wasn't just like bearable, it was genuinely loved. Described as a picture-perfect postcard. Fjords, husky sledding.
Wow, yeah.
That's fascinating because you often hear people just prioritizing warmth, warmth, warmth for holidays. What do you think made that cold trip so impactful for them?
Well, it suggests the appeal of travel isn't just about the weather, is it? Norway probably offered this unique mix, stunning scenery, really memorable activities, a different kind of immersive experience altogether.
Okay, now moving on to clothing choices. The main source for buying clothes is online, specifically Zara and ASOS. And the goal is described as a hip and trendy, but also timeless look. That's quite a nuanced aim, isn't it?
It is. Trying to be current, but also avoid things that are just, fleeting trends. It sort of speaks to wanting to feel fashionable, but also wanting pieces that will actually last. And the frequency of buying clothes
Hmm.
sounds like maybe more often than they think they should, described as a bit of a dopamine hit.
Ah, yeah. Retail therapy.
Exactly. And also a way to express different sides of their personality for different occasions. It really highlights how clothing can be tied up with our emotional state, our self-perception. Totally. And the evolution of their taste, reflecting different identities. That's really interesting. Before motherhood, during, after.
Mhm.
And then as work became a form of self-expression too, it really underlines how our roles and life stages just shape our sartorial choices.
It's like our clothes become this visual diary, almost, who we are at different points.
Yeah, exactly. A visual representation.
Fascinating how our personal stories get woven into something as everyday as our wardrobe. Okay, let's turn to the digital world. Social media. The platforms mentioned are Instagram for community building and LinkedIn for business connections. That sounds like a pretty strategic approach, right? For someone probably doing some kind of professional or creative work.
Seems likely. Instagram probably serves as that space for more, let's say, personal engagement, connection around shared interests, whereas LinkedIn is much more focused on the professional networking side, finding opportunities.
Right. And what's striking is the honesty about the time spent. Way too much. A couple of hours a day.
Yeah, that's quite an admission.
But justified, perhaps, by needing to engage with their audience. It speaks to the pressure, doesn't it? Maintaining that online presence today.
Mm-hmm. The demands are real, but there's also a clear awareness of the downside, the addictive quality, the potential for it to maybe negatively impact the quality of real-life relationships.
Yeah, that trade-off. Even with bigger online networks, maybe the depth of those face-to-face connections suffers. It definitely raises an important question about, the balance we strike in our digitally connected lives.
It certainly does. Okay, moving into the realm of work, let's talk about a job they really enjoyed, being a speaker and storyteller, which sounds like their current profession.
Yeah, and it's interesting that even though they loved writing and connecting with people growing up, public speaking wasn't initially seen as like a career path.
Right. And it's fascinating how those seemingly unrelated experiences stem,
Mm-hmm.
working in, 16 different industries,
Mm-hmm.
how they ultimately fed into this. What were some of the key transferable skills, do you think, picked up along that sort of winding path?
Well, it really highlights that careers aren't always straight lines, are they? Experiences in fields that seem miles apart can actually give you really valuable foundations. And it sounds like that diverse background gave them maybe a broader perspective and definitely communication skills that are now central to their passion.
Yeah, absent.
And what's really interesting is the why they enjoy it, the ability to influence thoughts, inspire positivity, especially around mental health and well-being. It's not just about talking, it's about the impact.
Exactly. That sense of purpose, feeling like you're making a positive contribution, that seems absolutely key to their job satisfaction.
Mm.
Which leads us nicely into the factors they think are important when actually choosing a career. Genuine interest comes up top. Absolutely crucial for, sticking with something long term.
Right. It's got to be more than just skills or qualifications. It needs that genuine spark, that passion for the work itself.
And they also rightly bring up the potential for growth within an industry. Especially thinking about, technology like AI, how it's affecting fields like writing, recruiting, connecting.
Yeah, that's huge right now. The emphasis then shifts, doesn't it, towards the uniquely human things, the stuff technology isn't quite ready to replicate fully.
Such as?
Well, things like nuanced communication, emotional intelligence, strategic thinking. As AI automates more routine tasks, maybe content creation or initial candidate screening, the value of those truly human skills just becomes even more critical.
Absolutely. A crucial consideration for anyone navigating their career right now.
Yeah.
So what does this perspective tell us about why some people might, fail in their careers? Or at least feel like they're failing? According to this conversation, focusing just on money,
Yeah.
it's not sustainable in the long run.
Right. There needs to be that intrinsic connection to the work. And also, failing to align your personal identity with your work, that's flagged as a big source of dissatisfaction. I mean, work is such a huge chunk of our lives, it needs to resonate with who we are, right? To feel fulfilling.
Definitely. Though they do acknowledge that, lots of people just jump in and figure it out.
Mm,
Which reflects reality, doesn't it? Career paths often involve a lot of exploring and adapting as you go.
for sure. Okay, so looking towards the future now, what are their thoughts on working from home? That big trend.
Well, the shift towards more remote work is definitely recognized. A huge change, driven largely by the pandemic and, of course, technology. Hybrid models seem to be becoming pretty common, a sort of compromise.
Yeah, the hybrid approach. But they also point out, quite rightly, that not everyone thrives working remotely, that human interaction, the sense of accountability you get in a physical workplace, some people still really prefer that.
It really underlines how much individual preferences and work styles vary. There's no one-size-fits-all. The prediction seems to be that if tech continues to automate more traditional roles, then remote work is probably going to become even more common.
Makes sense. But there are downsides acknowledged too, right? To working from home, like potential for social disconnection, feeling isolated.
Yeah, definitely. And for some people, the lack of that structured office environment can be tough. Challenges with accountability, needing a lot of self-motivation, organization.
Requires real self-agency.
Exactly. Again, it just highlights the diverse needs and preferences across the workforce.
Absolutely. It's a really nuanced picture, isn't it? The ideal setup isn't the same for everyone. Okay, so as we sort of bring this deep dive towards a close, what are some of the key insights that really stuck out for you? For me, it was the way those seemingly simple preferences, like craving specific foods, how that can point to deeper cultural connections or maybe unmet desires, and also that surprising joy found in a cold place like Norway. That contrast was really interesting.
Yeah, for me, it was the thoughtful approach to career choices, especially now in this era of rapid tech change. Emphasizing the lasting importance of genuine interest and those uniquely human skills, and also the honest take on social media, that double-edged sword, how it connects us, but also potentially distracts and maybe even diminishes real-world interactions.
hmm Good points. And for you, our listener, maybe take a moment to consider how these perspectives resonate with your own life. Do you notice similar patterns in your food choices, how you travel, how you use social media? What might those everyday choices reveal about your own underlying values and priorities?
Yeah, and maybe this raises a more provocative question to chew on. Given this accelerating pace of tech change, the evolving nature of work, how are you proactively ensuring that your skills, your passions remain aligned with a future where those human contributions, meaningful connections, where they're truly paramount?
Or perhaps think about this. What seemingly small everyday choices could be what you eat, how you spend your time online, might actually be offering you valuable clues, insights into your deeper self and what truly matters to you. Something to ponder as you go about your day.